Now, later today, a decision is expected on the controversial Oxford traffic measures. Some campaigners say they are essential for air pollution, and others say they are anti-democratic and harming local businesses. To talk about this in more detail, I'm delighted to be joined by Liam Walker from the Conservative Opposition on Oxford County Council. Liam, what do you make of this? Do you support it?
No, not at all. Completely against the low traffic neighbourhoods that the coalition here in Oxfordshire want to implement and keep permanent. We've seen the bus companies write a scathing letter to the council saying they haven't worked. So the council have implemented these, arguing that it's about reducing congestion and improving bus services. And the bus service companies have come out and said, actually, it's not achieved that. So I'm going to be addressing the meeting very shortly to hopefully convince the cabinet to pull the plug on these anti-motorist measures, open up the roads. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out if you shut off side streets, all the congestion, all the cars are going to go onto the main roads. We told the council this would happen, and lo and behold, that's what's happened. The consultation has showed residents aren't in favour, and one of the roads, 63% people are against. But unfortunately, what we see here in Oxfordshire is, despite consultation showing people don't favour these things, the Lib Dems and the Greens recommended today to press ahead with these measures.
Last week on the show, Liam, we had Florence Pugh, the famous actress's father, Clinton Pugh, who runs a restaurant and a business in central Oxford. And he said that this new sort of road scheme, this all-enveloping, pervasive new low-traffic neighbourhood scheme, is causing so much traffic, so many problems. It is ruining local businesses, including his. He's had to go to his daughter, or rather his daughter has had to bail him out. He's had a business there for 30 years. Suddenly, he's got to get bailed out because these new road schemes have wrecked his business, and his isn't the only one. This is anti-commerce, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not what councils should be doing. Councils should be getting the basic right. You know, here in Oxfordshire, the council's just been hammered over not funding special educational needs. So rather than focusing on what the council should be delivering, what we as taxpayers are paying for, they're implementing these roadblocks and AMPR cameras going up left, right and centre, school streets, we've got bus gates coming. It is absolutely ludicrous. This is not the way to take people on this journey. And it's all in the name of climate change, which is great. We all accept we need to reduce car journeys, but just hammering motorists in this way is not acceptable. Clinton has done an amazing job, and I know he's got a new banner on the side of his shop on Cowley Road, which the council took him to court to remove because it was criticising the council, despite the fact he's had a banner up there advertising his restaurant for 30 years. But, you know, you put an anti-message up. You know, we're living now in, you know, I've been a councillor since 2017, and I've never known it to be this toxic. We've got security outside our council today because we've got protests. We've had armed police on site when we've had full council meetings. I have never known it to be this divisive, and that is all because these councillors, a lot of them who don't even live in the city, are implementing these anti-motorist measures. And it's our job as elected representatives to represent the people. And the people today for East Oxford have clearly said they do not want these LTNs in place. So the cabinet should listen to that and pull the plug on them.
Important to stress, Liam, that this is a situation that's going on all over the country. All sorts of communities have suddenly had these accursed LTNs imposed upon them. Nobody ever asked for them. Councils decided that's what the people should have, even though they never voted for it. So it's going on all over the country. But in Oxford, it seems to be particularly egregious. Why has Oxford, in particular, become the sort of ground zero of the scourge of the LTNs? Why is it the worst place in the country for all of this nonsense?
It does feel like we're on the front line against these sort of anti-motorist measures. I mean, this has been going on, you know, I know Wales has just gone to 20 mile an hour, but we've had that in Oxfordshire for the past 2 years, £8 million on 20 mile an hour.
So, laugh, sorry.
Well, you know, this is what we are battling against every single day. My inbox is full of people, businesses, residents, bus companies, commuters complaining about these measures. And I say the same every single time. In May 2025, you have an opportunity. This is why voting really matters, because at the end of the day, people voted differently last time. We've ended up with this coalition, which did include Labour, but they pulled out only a few weeks ago, and they've left the Lib Dems and the Greens to mop up the mess that they've inherited. But yeah, we're really on the front line here in Oxfordshire, and actually, you know, I love this place. I work in Oxfordshire. You know, I've always been here, and I feel embarrassed to be a councillor here because of the reputational damage that these guys are doing across the whole country. You go to anywhere in the UK and say you're from Oxfordshire, and they go, "You've got vegan lunches now. You've got LTNs everywhere, and you have to drive at 20 mile an hour." I mean, that's not what we should be known for. But you know, we got to keep up the fight, and I'm hoping today that the cabinet really, you know, see sense here, because, like I said, the bus companies have written a scathing letter saying you shouldn't press ahead. Local residents are clearly not in favour. Businesses, there's lots of protesters outside as I speak that are against this. They cannot, you know, they cannot press ahead with this. If they do, it's anti-democratic, and that's why it's my job and the job of residents to make sure these guys don't win again in May 25. And if they do implement it, we, you know, have got methods in place. We can hopefully pull the plug. And particularly if I'm back in charge of highways in Oxfordshire, I will be personally driving the JCB to remove these anti-roadblock measures and pulling down those ANPR cameras.
Well, I look forward to that. Now, Rishi Sunak, about a month or so ago, announced a review of LTN measures all over the country. But as I understood it, it was only referred to the creation of new low-traffic neighbourhoods. So those of you poor sods who've already got it, like in Oxford, doesn't really affect you. But it was an indication of the government's attitude to these anti-car measures, which obviously is a similar reaction to what you've had, and I might say mine too. But what do you make of the government's stance? It's all very well to announce this, but what are they going to do for poor Oxford? What are they going to do for all the other places that are suffering under these low-traffic neighbourhood schemes that, as far as I can work out, apart from tyrannical little councillors, no one actually wants?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I was pleased to hear the Prime Minister say there's going to be a review, but the small print was it's for new schemes, as you rightly point out, which is frustrating. And if I'm honest, I shouldn't shy away from the fact that a lot of this started off the back of COVID, when we were seeing those restrictions in place. Suddenly LTNs were popping up to make walking and cycling a huge benefit, which I can accept. But the problem is councils, particularly here in Oxfordshire, are now using those temporary traffic orders to make permanent, and that's essentially the decision today. So they've used COVID as a reason to implement them and now want to keep them in place. That's wrong. I think the government, if I'm honest, need to look at funding. So the Department for Transport, Mark Harper, needs to stop funding these sorts of anti-motorist measures, because they're the ones that are funding the really expensive cycle lanes, the bus gates, the ANPR cameras. That money is generally coming from central government. So that's where it needs to stop. Personally, I would much rather that money was spent on resurfacing our roads and fixing our potholes than funding more ANPR cameras or LTNs.
Yeah, you'll never forget that, as you say, in the COVID crisis, almost overnight, you know, unsuspecting citizens of this country suddenly woke up one morning to find their cities and towns had been completely changed. And this was, of course, under the auspices of the then Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, who was in his own mind projecting the government's greenery. You know, we're a green party, you know, windmills, solar panels, LTNs. Yeah, Grant never asked us either. And it wasn't very conservative, if you ask me. This is the problem with LTNs. You know, it's the Tories' fault. They let it happen. They didn't listen to the people. That's what they never do. They never seem to listen to the people. Let's talk about some of the technicalities of what happens when you have LTNs. You corral all the traffic into, you know, one or two main roads. They become, as a result, incredibly congested. And what happens in congested roads? Loads and loads of carbon emissions spew out of the car exhausts, apart from electric cars, which not many people have. So they're counterproductive in terms of what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to create clean air, but they create the opposite.
Yeah. And I think it's this idea from the supporters of LTNs, you know, like I get it all the time, and you see it on Twitter, that the children can play in the streets and throw a ball about. I mean, it's just nonsense. That's what parks are for. And you're absolutely right. And we told the council this, that all you're going to do, you're not going to reduce the congestion. You're just going to push it onto the main roads. And you've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what's happened. We told them this is what happened. And the idea that they're being implemented to speed up bus services, and like I said, now the bus companies have come out and said actually it's not worked. They cannot press ahead with this, and we've banged the drum for this for a long time now in Oxford. It is mainly focused on Oxford, but we're also seeing it trickle out to our market towns. So Whitney, the former Prime Minister's constituency, is also seeing this. So during COVID, the High Street was closed off because the footpaths were widened. It kind of made sense, to be honest, because people were obviously social distancing. But that was a temporary measure, now been made permanent, despite 37 out of the 38 high street businesses being against it. This council decided actually we're going to implement it, we're going to keep it in place, and we've got a couple of wooden planters in the road and some signage to say you can't come through. And this is the sort of stuff that we're up against. But it's we keep banging the drum, keep making this point, and I think people are really starting to wake up to this now. And it was good to hear the Prime Minister at his conference speech talk about this anti-motorist agenda, but that anti-motorist agenda must stop with the Department for Transport funding a lot of these anti-motorist measures that we're then trying to fight locally in sort of local government.
Yeah. I love the way that they do this. I've just had one near where I live, where they suddenly block off a road and they put a few sort of boxes with trees hanging out of them, and then they put like chairs and benches around, as if people go, yeah, what a lovely place to sit. Where it used to be a junction, I can now hang out. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Why do these, as you indicated earlier, Liam, I mean, I've never met anyone who said, you know what, I love those low traffic neighbourhood schemes. They're great. I really want more. Let's have more of them. I've never, ever met anyone who said anything but, I hate low traffic neighbourhood schemes. And the people that really hate them, they're called drivers, motorists. There are 30 million of us all over the country. So quite why these two-bit local politicians want to declare war on 30 million people is beyond me. And that's really the crux of my question. Why do these local councils behave like this? Why do they not listen to what people want? I think it's something sort of weird, that it's about power. And if you really ask these people, why have you imposed very unpopular low-traffic neighbourhood schemes on us, they would, in private, say, because we can. It's about authority, it's about power, it's about telling the people, the little people like me, we're in power in the town hall, not you. Would you agree with that?
You're absolutely right. It is a control mechanism. And to answer your point of who's in favour of them, the people that are in favour of them, the people that live on the roads that have been shut off because they're living in a lovely, dead end road now. Where little Timmy can throw his ball outside the house and not go to the park. But it's a very good point. And clearly these don't work. We've seen the congestion go onto the main roads. It's not evaporated. We said this wouldn't happen. That would happen. That people would take other routes. And like I said, the bus companies are completely against it. We live in a democracy, and the report that's going towards cabinet today clearly shows that local residents aren't in favour because they've been impacted. Businesses like Clinton's business is suffering, and that's not acceptable. We're not elected by the residents of this great county to dictate to them what they should or shouldn't be doing. That's certainly not what I become a councillor for. You're there to elect on what they want implemented, and people don't want these anti-motorist measures. So it's our job as elected representatives to in any way we can. And I'm so hoping that the Lib Dems and the Greens see sense today, but I think it's this ideology that it's all about climate change. But as you just said, and quite right, all it's done is push the traffic on the main roads, so those gas guzzling cars are kicking out fumes on the more arterial roads now. That's not a solution.
So you're just hoping that the Lib Dems and the Greens see sense. Do you see any inherent problems with that statement? I do. They're incapable of seeing sense.
Yeah, you're telling me. You're telling me. I have to battle these guys every single day. It's relentless. Look, I'm going grey at the age of 30. You know, it's a massive battle, but it's one I enjoy doing. And you know, someone's got to do it. And you know, I appreciate that my party's not always got this right, and we've got the funding challenges, you know, for these measures. But I see it as our job to give these guys a good kicking at the ballot box and show people that actually, you know, maybe we haven't got it right in the past and ignore what's going on nationally, perhaps with various things. But you know, we are the grown-ups in the room, and re-elect us again in May 25, and we'll bring some common sense back to this council.
Liam Walker, Oxford Councillor, great to talk to you, and good luck with the decision this afternoon. Unfortunately, I don't see much hope for you, but I hope you win. But keep up the fight. Great to talk to you. Liam Walker there.